TECHNATION, uniting technology, government, and community for Canada's future.
TECHNATION, unir la technologie, les gouvernements et les communautés pour l'avenir du Canada.
Wow, that was really cool. I don't know about you guys, but I was kind of dancing there in the background on this amazing logo animation. Welcome everybody to Disrupt the Dialogue on Diversity, our live panel presented by TECHNATION and produced by TheFutureEconomy.ca. I'm Florent Thévenin with TheFutureEconomy.ca, and I'm here for a very brief introduction and, of course, to present to you your moderators. So first up, we have Angela Mondou, who is the president and CEO of TECHNATION. Angela has 25 years of experience in both the Canadian and the global technology industry. She also has a very unique career because not only has she been working in technology, but also in the military as an officer specializing in global supply chains and logistics, followed by 18 years in senior leadership roles. So really, really interesting combination. She's worked for BlackBerry, for Nortel, and I'm sure she'll bring that up at some point during this conversation. And of course, beyond her corporate and her military experience, Angela was also appointed as the IT and supply chain leader on the Ontario government's COVID-19 vaccination distribution task force. That's a mouthful, Angela. In December 2020, it's probably a lot of work too. And she is also a board member of the World Information Technology and Services Alliance. Welcome, Angela.
Thank you, Florent. That was quite an intro. So, wow, pretty sure this is a first for Canada because we have 7 leaders here, all CEOs, all women in tech. I think we could be doing a poster ad right now for STEM. What do you think, Flo?
I like it. I like it a lot. It's a good idea. Now, let me just introduce your co-host or your co-moderator, Melissa Chee. She is the president and CEO of VentureLab, which is a leading global founder community for hardware, technology, and enterprise software companies located in Markham, York region, representing VentureLab's initiatives focus on raising capital, super important, of course, talent retention, even as important, commercialization of technology and IP, and customer acquisition. I'm sure we all agree on this panel today that it's super important too. VentureLab has created over 4,000 jobs, raised more than $200 million in investment capital, so very noteworthy. Before those roles and other roles in the tech sector, including Director of New Initiatives at Constellation Software, which is one of Canada's largest publicly traded enterprise software companies. She has also been Executive Officer and Vice President of Product, Operations and Marketing at Spectra 7, playing an important role in the company's transition to public listing on the Toronto Stock Exchange. We need more of these, that's for sure. So hello, Melissa, and I'm going to say goodbye to the rest of you. Have a great panel.
All right. Thank you, Florent. Welcome, Melissa. Great to be here with you. I just mentioned that we have 7 speakers today, including us two as moderators, and these incredible CEO women in tech. I don't think I've ever seen this before in Canada. And, we do a lot of discussion right now about women not being prevalent in the executive roles and in the board meetings. But we're making headway, obviously, with this kind of panel today. But I want to emphasize that as forward thinking as Canada is, there are areas where we continue to lag. And believe it or not, our nation is lagging when it comes to women in executive and board roles in technology, in our tech sector as a whole, and in diversity and inclusion as well, and in professions, and driving that diversity across professions. So that's the reason behind the panel today, which is really about disrupting the dialogue on diversity. We've all been, I bet you all of our panelists can agree, we've all been on stages for years, having important dialogue. Everything starts with dialogue. It can lead to action. Today is really about the action. It's about creating a call to action with our panelists from their insight, with the members that are joining us today. I do want to do a shout out to Lisa Carroll, who's stepping up this year to help us drive the disruption in the dialogue, as well as our chair for diversity. Welcome back, Lisa Carroll. And we might even be, Melissa, we talked a little bit about this, debating the Q word, the word as in yoga. There's been many times in my career, right at the beginning, I remember not wanting to be a token woman or part of any quota. That got knocked sideways really quickly when I started out. I was a licensed pilot. I went to speak to the Air Force recruiters about joining as a pilot. And they said to me, no, even though you're licensed and private airplanes and everything, we're not accepting women. We're accepting men who have no licenses, but not women with licenses. And I was thinking, this is crazy. We have the Israelis and the United States Air Force had pilots. So all of us have experienced barriers throughout our careers that have need broken down, actions, targets, sometimes direct intervention to open doors. I can look back many times and seeing that. So today is really about trying to take this year, seize the catalyst of the pandemic, blow the doors wide open. I'm so thrilled that you're here to join us, Melissa, as well, along with our incredible ladies who we're going to hear from in a minute. I wanted to say quickly about Melissa Chee. She's been a partner of ours for a year and a half. You heard her great intro from Florent. I don't know if you all know that she's kind of famous now. She was in the Globe and Mail a couple of weeks ago with an incredible op-ed. The global chip shortage is the wake-up call Canada needs. So Melissa, why don't you tell us a bit about two things I want to hear about. One, about your incredible work at VentureLab, but also about the partnership that we're developing around your incredible program, Tech Undivided.
Yeah, so, first of all, Angela, it's great to be here. I think we're really excited to deepening our partnership with TECHNATION. VentureLab, as Flo kind of introduced, is a leading global founder community. We're actually led by entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs, which I think really makes us different. It's just an incredible team of founders and entrepreneurs and business leaders that have been in tech and other key sectors for many, many years. And I think when we look at disrupting the dialogue, which is such a timely and important, not just, as you said, a conversation, but action oriented, we look at our own organization. And so we lead the organization by example. We're performance based, so we very much focus on a performance based culture. We have 5 core values that we're really proud of. We call it the river culture. But the results of making sure that we have the right people, the right skills at the table are, they demonstrate in our 50-50 gender parity board. Our leadership team is more than 50% female. And our overall team is gender parity. So I think for us, in terms of a ecosystem and a major ecosystem player in Canada, this has been really, really important in terms of focusing on the skills and the talent that we need at the table in order to turn that needle. I think I'll turn it to Tech Undivided, and certainly, there's 2 major things I think that VentureLab is making our mark on. One is on the Hardware Catalyst initiative, which you just kind of, and I'm not sure if we're famous, but we certainly, we are passionate, incredibly passionate about the hardware and semiconductor sector. And certainly it's such an important sector for Canada to really lead globally. And equally important, I think, is our focus on inclusivity. And that's where Tech Undivided and our partnership with TECHNATION comes in. And that is really our program focused on female founders to really raise the bar and reduce unconscious bias. One of the things I think we've talked about many times is attracting customers and raising capital. That is the number one thing that many of our underrepresented founders struggle with. And so that is what TU, as we fondly call it, Tech Undivided, is focused on. And the partnership with TECHNATION and a number of the companies who these founders have raised capital, millions of dollars of capital since we launched it last year, and have really created new jobs. All of these things are really important, I think, as we see the intersectionality of what our diversity and communities really look like in the tech ecosystem. So very excited to be here.
Good. Thrilled to have you here. So what do you say we kick off and start getting our panelists?
Let's do that. So on that note, let's meet our panelists, shall we? And we're going to start, I think, with an icebreaker, if I'm not mistaken. And as everyone kind of pops up, I want to have everyone take just 1 minute, if we can, to introduce yourself. And then let us know one thing that you're looking forward to post-COVID lockdown. So I'll start with Corinne. And as we see, welcome. I'll turn it over to you, Corinne.
Great. Thank you, Melissa. So my name's Corinne Bouchard. I'm the founder of Pure Logic IT Solutions. We're a value-added reseller servicing the Canadian federal government, and really started off 13 years ago from the basement of the house. So really that entrepreneur bootstrapping kind of mentality. And we've quickly grown in the last 13 years to a decent-sized SME. And the biggest question is, what are we going to do once this post-COVID lockdown is done? So for really what we want to do is we want to have we're going to host a Roaring 20s themed party for our family, friends, business partners, and colleagues. And I mean over the top, over the moon. So we're going to use a modern twist on technology to kind of help do this. But we really want to be in person with great food and great drinks. And I think we're all missing live entertainment and just being together. So that's really what I look forward to doing, the Roaring 20s 2021 theme. So thank you, Melissa.
Thank you very much for that, Corinne. Marianne Ewell from HP, maybe we could pop you back up, and then I'll just kind of forecast. Angela Brown from Moneris will bring back up next. Thank you.
There's so much I'm looking forward to. I mean, where do you begin, right? I'm first mostly looking forward to seeing my friends and family in person, as well as seeing people in the office again, instead of just on my camera, on my computer screen. Traveling across the country to meet face-to-face with customer and partners. I'm also itching for a little bit of travel for some fun. So I haven't quite mapped out or finalized my next vacation, but I'm pretty sure you'll find me under the Caribbean sun this winter. Thank you.
That's awesome, Marianne. Angela Brown from Moneris.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me here. I'm excited to be here. Many of you will be familiar with the name Moneris. It's Canada's largest payment processor, and we have expanded into significant solutions that we provide to small and large businesses. And we're obviously very committed to advancing technology for the consumer's use and also for businesses' use, and excited to be here today. And I am from a very large extended family. And so I can, if only a fraction of people are willing to show up at a summer get-together, we easily get to 50 people. And so it's been hard for the last year and a bit to not be able to plan family get-togethers and celebrate wins and mourn together for losses. And so I am really looking forward to hugging one of the 42 cousins that I have that usually get together in the summertime. So I cannot wait for that.
That is awesome. I think we can all appreciate the hugs. I think the hugs that's such a great way to articulate it. Next, Jamie Leverton from Hut 8 Mining.
Hello, everybody. Great to be here. I also love hugs. I'm the CEO of Hut 8 Mining. Hut 8 Mining is a Canadian-operated company. We specialize in digital asset mining. So initially Bitcoin mining, we now mine Ethereum as well. We trade on the Toronto Stock Exchange and very proudly also the NASDAQ as of last week. And what I am most looking forward to is somebody who took the helm of a new role during the middle of the pandemic. I can't wait to get traveling so I can actually meet my team in person, most of them for the very first time, even though it's been 7 months. And like Marianne, I'm super excited to get back to traveling with my family as well. So really looking forward to that, but also super excited to be here with all of you. It's a great opportunity.
Thanks, Jamie. Certainly can appreciate the virtual onboarding. We have done a lot of that in the last year, and yeah, I can certainly appreciate that. And last, certainly but not least, Susan Bowen from Aptum.
Oh, thank you. I'm Susan Bowen for Aptum. I started this journey 3 years ago, or 5 years ago, with Cogeco, Canadian telco, as everybody knows, and took the helm as president coming up 3 years ago to take the company out standalone. That was Cogeco Pier 1. We're now Aptum Technologies. COVID didn't slow us down. We've gone through 2 divestitures, completely restructured the company. We are now a fully functioning cloud agency organization running managed services. We are at a global level, so 23 locations around the world, so very much along the same theme as the rest of the team here. How do we get to go and see our colleagues? It really makes a difference as a leader that you can walk around, you can take people for a meal, hugging on a personal level. Absolutely, I'm with Jamie on that. I love hugs. And on a personal note, having moved to Canada 2 years ago, haven't seen my family since, back in the UK as a direct result of COVID. So I really can't wait to be able to fly back and give a big hug to our family who we're missing. And I don't have 40 odd cousins, but that is definitely something I would love to have in the future, to kind of get a big family gathering. So I think, common themes really, that I think we're all really excited to look forward to.
Well, this is a great panel. So I think the first one is for Jamie, actually. So, we really want to talk about diversity in the tech sector. And so maybe you can talk a little bit about what your organization has done, and some really tangible changes that you've been making to really move the needle.
Yeah, happy to. So as I mentioned, I've been at the helm now for 7 months. Prior to my arrival, there was no female leadership at the senior leadership level, and there was no female representation on the board. So one of the first things I did when I got here, among many other things, was to actually create a diversity and inclusion policy. And quickly thereafter, was able to establish gender parity of our senior leadership team. So we have 8 senior leaders, including myself, 4 women, 4 men. And we also now have 40% female representation at a board level. So, some very quick, tangible progress, which is really important. I think as a female leader in this space, in technology, we really need to take the actions and to move quickly. And I think by leading by example, we can really make things happen. And I found full support from the board when I brought this forward. It just hadn't been on their radar before my arrival. So that's the thing that I find so fascinating. This is a narrative that's been going on for many, many years, and yet we don't see enough action. And I very rarely experience a negative response to putting these things forward. Quite oftentimes, it just hadn't come up as a priority to take action against. So I'm really proud of the work that we've done here. And then one of the things we also did quite quickly was to launch an employee assistance program, because I think it's so important in this experience that everyone's having during the pandemic, to make sure that your employees have that access to professionals, and to make sure that we're thinking of the whole self of our employees across the organization. So that was another thing really that was important to me to bring in early on.
I think those are fantastic. I know, speaking from our own experience, those are leading by example is key, and physical and mental health, especially given the 15 or 18 months that we've been going through this. I think that's fantastic what you've done so far, Jamie. I'll ask the same question of Marianne, and maybe toss it to Marianne to comment.
You got it. Thanks very much. That was great, Jamie. Leading with purpose has always been a part of HP's DNA from the very beginning. Our founders, Bill and Dave, they embraced diversity as part of the HP way because it drives innovation. And they embedded within our culture that how we do things is just as important as what we do. And I fundamentally believe that innovation at HP springs from people bringing their whole selves to work, collaborating, and contributing their varied perspectives, knowledge, and experiences. Diverse teams create transformative solutions, and that better serves our customers and partners, and it advances how the world works and lives. I'm proud to share HP has been a top diversity employer for 4 years in a row, and Canada's top foreign corporate citizen for the past 6 years. And we've published an annual sustainability impact report with our commitment to sustainable impact, which includes diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. And it isn't just the right thing to do, it's also good for business. Last year, this commitment helped HP win over $1 billion in new sales. It's a testament to the high performance kind of purpose-driven culture that unites the HP ecosystem and the global partner community. It also reflects a changing role of corporations in society and shapes how we set our goals. For example, HP has the most diverse board of directors of any Fortune 100 technology company. Also, our company significantly increased the number of women and minorities in the executive leadership team. HP remains one of the top tech companies with women and underrepresented minorities in executive positions, over 30% at HP in leadership, those that are directors above. And if we look at, kind of break it down a little bit more, women in full-time positions represent about 30% of our vice presidents, and that's up 18% from 18% in 2015, and 32% of our directors compared to 23% in 2015. In Canada, the executive leadership team is over 50% women. We've worked hard to build a workplace where all employees can belong, innovate, and grow. But we're raising the bar, right? We're aiming to achieve 50-50 gender equality in HP leadership, and we're the first Fortune 100 technology company to make this commitment. We've got lots of programs around unconscious bias trainings. Our program in Belong at HP also has leadership development programs for underrepresented groups, and these have consistently helped us achieve a high inclusion index rating. So we keep doing that. On top of the vision, is to be universally ranked as an employer of choice for underrepresented groups in the technology industry by 2030. I mean, we know it's ambitious, but the pace of change of the world around us is accelerating. So we too must accelerate our efforts to create the future we want to see.
Couldn't have said it better.
Mary Ann, you just said a couple of things that I think are really, really important. One of them is embedded in culture. That's kind of critical, I think, and part of the success around your company's leadership, having the willingness to shape the goals, as you said, leading to 30% of that diversity in the US and 50% in Canada. So I just want to change the gears a little bit, because those numbers I think are really impactful when we look at our situation in Canada. And when we, in 2020, a report was done of women in all sectors, in board positions and in executive level positions. Utilities and pipeline is the #1 area for top women on boards. 30% of women on boards in utilities and pipeline, and 23% of women in the executive level, compared to the tech sector, which was down around #9 or 10 in Canada, 16% women on boards, and 14% women executives. It's really hard to believe that our innovative, forward-thinking industry is sitting there. So we still have work to do. We have some great companies in Canada. We just had 8 mining. We're going to add you to the list now, Jamie, but companies that have taken and set targets for their executive level. Bell has specifically set targets, Shaw, TELUS, Sierra, whatever. So that's kind of what I want to talk to. I'm going to direct this question to Karine. Karine, what's your experience with what we're going to call intentional targets today, or targets that have been set to drive change and action? And what was the results of that experience?
Perfect. Thanks, Angela. This is actually a really interesting topic for me. It really resonated when we started doing our preparation for today's call. And actually, you telling your story about the Canadian military that you shared earlier. So I, like you, did not actually set out for these intentional targets within our organization for the clients to do business with our company because we were women-owned or women-led. However, a lot of people saw value of that over the last couple of years before I personally did. So I've kind of broken this down into 3 different key factors that I think the intentional targets, or if we want to use the word quota, that we talked about, right? There's 3 different factors I think that I've got some experience with. So in the first of all, the fact that you've actually gotten to a certain stage as a leadership through your skill set, through your ambition, through your hard work, whatever that actually might be, is not enough to keep us there. And I think that identifying a quota is going to be really important for us to set these targets early on, intentional target early on, so that we can actually really identify this like Jamie did in her organization, and really kind of striving to get to that goal. So I love that I'm hearing that. So as an SME, we have a little bit more work to do, but it's keeping in line with our career goals and being patient, working towards them is key. Second of all, we talked about shifting the mindset and opening up for more inclusion. So this is actually a generational change in my view, and the business needs to actually adopt and adapt to this. So looking at young, talented women that can come in and be promoted, be part of board positions. I know TECHNATION, we've got a new learn how to be part of a board program that's really interesting, and then become part of the executive leadership. I think as part of this, we have to support women in the startup phase or in that young phase of their career and help be open and honest when talking to them. There's so many times that we sit there and we're intimidated by somebody or a mentor that we see out in the marketplace that we want to ask these questions to, and we're really kind of nervous to do that. So I think making that change mentally and saying we have to really encourage these conversations to open up the actual discussion is key. And then as I look at the last key target that we're looking at is that we have to see larger traction, like companies from HP or corporations or governments promoting these different factors for these intentional targets. That not only allows companies to strive towards them, but I'm actually looking at blowing that glass ceiling off and going way above and above beyond that. So if we can actually get rid of these targets in the long run and make it new normal, I think for us in the technology and business world, this is going to be huge. Policy is going to do that. Setting procurement for specific social economic groups is going to do that. And it will take time, but I think we all have a role here to play. So thank you, Angela.
Thanks so much for that, Corinne. We do have a role to play, particularly because we're all in the tech sector, and we do need to strive to get up to that #1 position, I think, even though we're ubiquitously working across all sectors. Yeah, we have some work to do for sure. Getting some really good input here, and particularly I like your insight as SME and looking to those larger companies as well and what they're doing to strive to get there. I want to take it out to a larger global scale right now and talk a little bit about what's going on in other countries and what kind of countries, the impact of countries that have regulatory minimums on their publicly traded companies. They're really having an impact. So there are countries out there with over 30% women on publicly traded boards, mainly in Europe, and having regulatory minimums. France, Spain, Belgium, Norway, they've been doing this, some of them for well over a decade. So Susan, having some roots in Europe, would love to hear from you, and you've got some global experience, obviously working in headquarters, I think, around the world, but why don't you tell us what your company is doing to support advancing women, similar to some of these other global nations or global companies, and how that is impacting change in your organization?
Absolutely, thank you. And it's really great that you mentioned some of the work that's been done in Europe. I was part of the founding member of the Tech Talent Charter sponsored by British government. We launched that program a number of years ago now, and I had the real benefit of, as I took on the president role inside of Cogeco, and then we kind of took our company out standalone. I was able to kind of put some of those recommendations in that Tech Talent Charter into action. So some great outcomes, actually. So I'll start with outcomes, and then I'll talk about how we did it. We're in a position now where 43% of our executive team is female, and that's a wonderful place to be, because if I think not just about diversity and I think about inclusion, and I think some of the other members of the panel mentioned this, I've also been really focused on that 50-30 challenge. I really, really believe in that. I think it's a wonderful challenge because it's not just about diversity, it's inclusion of the underrepresented groups as well. And we're sitting at 30% in that same team. And it was really great opportunity to be able to mold and shape, to think more broadly about that kind of more rounded organization. And I think if you can start at the top and you can set precedents at the top and show that leadership, it really does start to flow down. So other statistics and outcomes that we've done, really, really excited to share that in the last 18 months, even during this pandemic, where we have seen, unfortunately, females favor the choices to actually leave work. We've seen some very difficult statistics coming out of the US now. What's really exciting in Aptum is over 50% of our promotions and our recruitment in the last 18 months have actually been female. And I've put it down to the fact that we've recognized flexible working. From the very beginning, we've recognized the fact we don't measure a certain hour around a role. We've also tried to celebrate role models, and we have some wonderful females in extremely technical roles who very rarely get the platform to be sharing their story. And there's a very obvious reason for that. And one of those obvious reasons is because if you're technically competent, typically you're an introvert. If you're a coder, a DevOps person, normally you're more introverted. You're not that keen to have the limelight. So what we've been doing is working on storyboarding, sharing case studies, involving in a very clear role model PR strategy. So we've got some of our tech leaders, our DevOps female candidates, all taking part in that storyboarding. And because they're doing it in a safe environment, they're being celebrated, and they're actually being amplified through social media and other areas, but not by themselves. They don't have to do that thing that's really uncomfortable. It's being done for them. And so by doing that, you're able to really accelerate those role models. And one of the questions that has come about many times is what does that diversity disruption mean to you? And for me personally, being one of the only females in computer science classes, being that geek, I'm a proud geek, extremely proud of my heritage. Like Marianne, I was 16 and a half years at HP in the UK before I went out into other telco sectors and so forth. And so being able to use that and advocate for STEM and to use those key examples, that's how we've got those really good business outcomes. And we didn't have to quota to do that. We didn't have to set targets to do that because it was a natural outcome of some of these amazing ideas. And we're really proud of our progress in the last couple of years. And so, thank you for the opportunity to share those ideas because I think they're easily reusable in all organizations around the world.
You mentioned, can you just remind me, was it a charter that you were part of designing here? What was that called?
Yeah, it's called the Tech Talent Charter. It's a charter that really is about all companies that are technology biased. So, I'm pretty sure you all know Domino's Pizza is actually more of a technology company now than it ever is delivering pizzas. And that's just a common natural progression. And so all companies sign up basically to share statistics every single year on all of the technology roles that are being driven by females. And by sharing that information and that insight, it really gives us good data points. And I think it's a great way, and I'd love to see that kind of a charter where all companies sign up in Canada. I really think it would be great to see that. I do have to say, I think the 50-30 challenge is a great one. I am personally very bought into that. I think it's really well defined, and I think something along the lines of an extension of that would be super helpful.
That's awesome. We're going to talk about that more. That sounds really, really practical and targeted. So over to you, Melissa. I think you have some more questions.
One more. Yeah, I think we're for Angela Brown. And given everything that we've heard here, what other things do you, from your vantage point, do you think we should be doing in terms of advocating for diverse boards, especially representation and things like that? If you can maybe provide insight there.
Sure. I do think TECHNATION is doing many things that are going to support the diversity going forward. And just to build on Susan's comments, creating awareness of current women in leadership roles in technology is going to be a very important part of helping companies create diverse boards and create diverse executive teams as well. But TECHNATION has an opportunity as well to also build towards the future. So the future workplace development programs, making sure that young people enter the field and that there is a diversity of young people entering the field so that the pipeline is there for the long term. Because it's fine to set the goals and it's even fine, I'm sure we've all faced that situation where we could be a token representative of women in technology. And that's okay, but it'll be really great when in fact the pipeline of talent coming through at every level is truly balanced to reflect the population. And so I think TechNation's doing an excellent job of building the future, as well as creating events just like this and these amazing women right here in Canada right now running technology companies. And so I think that TechNation's in a perfect position to keep the dialogue going and build towards the future.
So that is a perfect segue, Angela Brown, who I always follow, by the way. Angela at Mondou always follows Angela Brown. That's a really good segue to my next question. What we want to do now is a rapid fire round. So it's going to be hard for everybody to speak in 60 seconds or less. Maybe we'll let you talk a little bit more. But can you tell us, as CEOs of the fastest growing sector around the world, how you think technology executives should work with industry or government or investors to drive meaningful change in Canadian companies? I'm going to start with Jamie.
Yeah, so thanks, Angela, for starting with me. I've been really active in this space, encouraging more leadership in STEM and speaking out about it, and being really, really actively involved for the better part of the last decade. And the reality is the talking's not getting us far enough. And the narrative is basically on a repetitive cycle. The panels all say the same things, and we're almost speaking in an echo chamber most of the time because the room's full of women and we're all nodding along, but we're not actually seeing the progress. So what I really want to see is a focus on hard commitments, and when we're engaging with external parties, asking them what their hard commitments are around diversity. I don't want to know what your soft commitments are. I don't want to know about your programs. I want to know what your commitments are, and if you don't have commitments, then let's not talk about it.
Good. I love it. This is what today's all about, hard commitments. Okay, how about Karine?
Perfect. So from an SME perspective, I love the hard commitments because we can only measure certain things that matter, right? And so I think by putting this in as a KPI in the business is going to be really important for us to do. And I think one of the ways that we can actually do it is work with companies like TechNation and other of the tech incubator centers across Canada, like in Waterloo, Toronto, Ottawa, and Calgary, to sit there and work through their programs, because they have dedicated programs right now to help bring funding to new entrepreneurs, help teach them how to actually work within a board, how to actually invest and grow their organizations, and then being able to actually put that time and energy from a volunteer perspective or our own dollars up front to help promote these companies and help them grow. Because a lot of the times we know that the banks just, don't give you money on the first or second or third or eighth ask. And so really working with these different tech centers across Canada, I think will make a difference for all brand new women entrepreneurs starting. So
that's really good to hear. And it's kind of aligned. So there's the accelerator efforts. And then, as many of you have heard with TechNation, we have Shared Services Canada doing the Scale Up program for minority-led businesses. Thank goodness we've come a long way from when I was running my own company, and there was no such thing as a minority-led business. I don't think it existed back then. So really, that's really good to hear. I feel like there's some of these things that are really going to help make that shift. And oh my God, there's a hug. There's one of those hugs we're talking about. That's fantastic. Yeah. Okay, how about Mary Ann, while Jamie's getting these great hugs. Mary Ann, what are your thoughts, call to action in terms of making what we can do?
I mean, diversity is a team effort. And as part of this team effort, the biggest opportunity that I can see is the occasion to scale it. You just said it, Angela, and the others just said it. Scale this important work through our supply chains and our partners. And the commitment. I'm a founding member of the Coalition of Innovation Leaders Against Racism, CLAR in Canada, as well as HP Canada. We took the Black North Initiative Pledge and the 50-30 Challenge to hold ourselves accountable and to advance the dialogue. Another example of what HP is trying to do and is doing to drive success and scale of impact is through a program we launched called Amplify Impact. This is an industry-first partner assessment, resource and training program that's aimed at driving meaningful change across our 3 sustainability impact pillars, which is planet, an emphasis on climate change, people, an emphasis on human rights and social justice, and community with an emphasis on bridging the digital divide. HP partners that pledge to join this voluntary Amplify program will work with us to assess their own practices while tapping into HP's huge investments and initiatives around this. Because our goal is to work with our partners to help drive a more circular and low carbon economy, cultivate a more diverse, inclusive, and equitable supply chain, and bring the vitality and resilience, and improve rather the vitality and resilience of local communities. Because the strength and reach of our ecosystem are substantial. And by bringing our partners along with us on this journey, we can work together to actually create a more sustainable and just world.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. That's part of the theme under the digital marketplace, getting our bigger partners involved to pull in the smaller enterprises as part of that bigger success story, the big boats float the smaller boats scheme. That makes so much sense. Okay, Angela Brown.
You know what I would like to recommend that we all work on with government and with our communities is a more thorough adoption of the technologies that are out there. So when you think about the businesses that have thrived or have at least survived during this pandemic, it was those that had enough technology in their infrastructure, in their day-to-day operations, so that they could handle this dramatic shift that we've all experienced from face-to-face transactions, face-to-face commerce, to the online ordering and curbside pickup. And that's just one example, and it is obviously a very dramatic example, but it shows that we need to help businesses, small businesses especially, but every size business, to adopt the technologies that are available today. And the government can help them do that with incentives. And as an industry, we can help do that with the right education and communication. But I feel like there is more opportunity and more potential that's untapped with existing technologies. And if people are more up to date on that, then when new technologies emerge, it'll be an easier adopt as a result. So I think that would really move the needle for Canadians and for Canadian businesses.
And so important, we're always talking about the SME in Canada. We have poor adoption outside of the tech sector with our small, medium enterprises. So last but not least, Susan, and then I'm going to hand back to Melissa Chee for some more questions that we're getting.
So I'm going to probably maybe sound a little bit controversial, or hopefully not. I just think that in the last 18 months, as the world, pivoted on itself, we did see, unfortunately, many statistics that showed very clearly that it was the female group that had to make some difficult choices. And I saw a survey recently, and it's basically showed something like 73% of the females responding were the ones that chose to step back. And it really got too much. There was just too many spinning plates. Not everybody had the right support. All of that support network that did exist suddenly just disappeared. You're unable to have people helping. Your whole support network disappeared, and not everybody has been able to come through that, and they made some very difficult choices, and a lot of those choices came to choosing to leave their careers. Now, I think my challenge and recommendation to both the investor community but also to government and to all industries now would be to say, remember all of those people that made that difficult choice. You supported them along the way. You helped enable those things to happen. Pick up the phone, go talk to them, because as the world starts to get back to normal, they need encouragement. They need to be given the confidence to be the returner back to work. And I think we need to do some investment in returners programs, ever more so now than we ever did before. And also be that company that understands, be that company that understood that somebody made a decision then but to welcome them back with open arms and a hug if necessary, because I really think there will be a lack of confidence. People will feel like they let the company down, they let their colleagues down. They never did any of those things. They had to make a personal choice. So my recommendation is we start to think about what's going to happen in the next 6 to 12 months that's very real, very tangible, and it's something we can very quickly fix and very quickly address. So I'd really like to see something like that happen, and I think it will make a big difference, because be that company an investor and government that welcomes everybody back and encourages everybody to come back, and find the right flexibility. So Angela mentioned technology, absolutely critical. Marianne mentioned, that flexible working, that recognition that it's not all in one kind of set defined role. And I think if we can bring all of that and combine that together, then we make our entire industry in Canada extremely attractive for women.
Yeah, what a great point. That's a completely different angle that we haven't really heard much about. Thanks for that, Susan. So Melissa, it looks like we have a lot of questions coming in from the audience. I'm going to hand over to you to help manage some of those.
No, I think this is a great discussion and very action oriented. And the one that, certainly is coming out in the chat is around the intersectionality of diversity. And so one of the questions about what other types of, forms of ageism and isms, right? Tech has a rep of being ageist, and let's say favoring or steering towards the young. Can our group of incredible leaders here comment on how do we manage the intersectionality of not just the gender discussion, but certainly more broadly diversity? Angela, thank you.
Happy to. Because this has been a recent discussion that we've been having at Moneris, and that is that diversity needs to be defined more broadly than we've thought about it in the past. And so as a woman, I know I have benefited from the focus on encouraging women in business and women in technology, and that needs to continue. But there are so many other parts of our population that are underrepresented as well in the industry. And I think ageism is a legitimate one that people worry about. I have to say, though, with the war on talent, which we are all seeing, I think that it's going to be wise for any large company, to look at the breadth of talent that's available. And similarly we've recently created at Moneris a Black Employees Network. I'm very proud of it, and I'm only not proud that we only did it recently. We should have had it a long time ago. But these are opportunities to start to broaden the definitions of diversity and make sure that everybody is invited to the table, everybody's encouraged and mentored, and has the opportunity. And I think that's a very good point. And age is another one, another attribute we have to look at and see, are we making assumptions? And do we have that automatic assumption about somebody because of how they look, what their age is, what their gender is, how they self-identify, all of these things.
Yeah, you just, I'm going to tie what you just said, Angela, into one of the questions in the chat here, and that is the integration of BIPOC and minority groups in the tech sector moving fast enough? You just made a point about, wow, it's taking all of us so long. Should we accelerate that pace of change? And can a tech company be a winner if they aren't taking steps like this towards diversity? So anybody want to jump onto Angela's great message there?
Oh, I think we need to move faster on the BIPOC community for certain in our country.
Yeah.
We've got tremendous talent. And, that's one of the reasons I joined CELAR, the Coalition of Innovation Leaders Against Racism. And I chair the Job Opportunities Pillar, where we're looking at how do we ensure that employers can actively recruit people from that community, and not from the same old places we've always recruited, but maybe reach out proactively. HP at Canada, we signed up with an organization called Onyx that helps us source candidates from the Black community in our country. And we have lots of work to be done there. And then once we have those employees, how are we onboarding them so that they actually fit within our organization? Because we have organizational biases and norms. So we need some work that we have to do there. Incremental to that, then we have to, recruit them, hire them, retain them, engage them, and then promote these individuals. So there's a whole pile of work. I would encourage all of you to take a look at CLAR. And Angela, it's one of the things that I want to talk about with you for TECHNATION. How do we better engage with this group to really advance the stuff we're talking about all the time? And because it feels way better when we're seeing some results. And I'm sure as leaders, we all prefer to see people thrive in their roles because we've helped make it happen.
I wanted to jump in really quickly, Angela. What I'm seeing on the procurement side, specifically with the Government of Canada, is that they've really started to identify programs and policies. And we're starting to see that with TECHNATION. And they're applying these program and policies now to the social economic community. So it's really important that we have these companies grow up and fester to be able to support these services as well across Canada to the Government of Canada or other commercial entities that do encourage and embrace these programs. So I think that it's a two-part side. One is the companies, the other one is being able to actually sell and work with these policies to actually encourage these companies' growth. But I think it is slow. I do agree. I feel like this has been talked about for 2 or 3 or 4 years, like Jamie said, and it's just starting to take flight now. But we can't be negative. We only have to look positive to the future and have those metrics in place and look at those key results. So
it feels too in the last 24 months that everything's on this warp speed pace. Everything's under this mega, zoom lens as well. So this is why I keep saying to our team, this is the year to break down doors. It might not be 24 months from now, but now's the time. So this is the time that organizations like ours can, in this kind of insight, we can really maybe hammer home with governments and investors, et cetera. Melissa, I'm going to hand over to me. I think we're probably on the last question now because we've gone over time. Is there anything in the list of questions that's jumping out?
I think there were some really interesting ones. I mean, we'll go back to the intentional target question, but our target's the same. I think there was a few comments here. Our target's the same as quotas, and why do we see or hear targets as the common language currently? I think this is an important one because I think it can carry a negative connotation. I don't believe that's at all what we are all talking about. So I'll pose that one to the group here.
I'm happy to take the first response on that because I'm definitely one of those individuals that has really pushed hard against quotas over the years. But for me, I think the difference on a target versus a quota is it's always going to be about selecting the best talent. And I really do strongly believe that it should always be about getting the best person for the job. As an organization, you have shareholders that are your main kind of focus in terms of deliverables and customers and employee engagement to consider all at the same time. For me, targets are about trying to create cultural change, and objectives drive behavior. So, why not set a target on the number of females that are part of the recruitment pipeline process? That doesn't mean you have to then select the female, but it means that you are actually giving everyone an equal measure in terms of getting forward for that role. Also, what we know that if we can set a target on the number of people that are in the interview process, sometimes females have to be encouraged to apply for those roles. It's just a natural tendency, a natural bias. So if everyone goes through an unconscious bias training and you set a target on that recruitment funnel, that early doors pipeline, it does allow you to then have a better opportunity of hiring the best talent. And I think for me, that's the fundamental difference between quotas and targets.
Any last word? Or Angela, either way of you?
I think it's semantics, really. I think quotas have a bad rap in it, and people kind of shut down or go into their corners when you use the word quota. But target, it has a softness to it. There's more flexibility with it, and I think that's really the biggest difference, in my opinion.
And Angela, you were going to say something too. That's kind of interesting. Yeah. See, we got to get to a debate. Just as we have to sign off here. All right. Did you have anything, Angela, you wanted to add to that?
No, I love what Jamie just said, and I do think people can react depending on the definition that they think it means. But at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is get to a new balance and one that reflects the population at large. And I think, there's different ways to get there. And some people might say, I'm going to set a quota, and some folks a target, and all of it should help move us in the right direction.
Yeah. Well, we're well over time, actually. I want to thank all of you amazing leaders, technology CEOs, pioneers. Thanks for joining us today. There's been a tremendous amount of insight, a lot of focus on hard commitments, culture, and how we need to drive action now. We're all saying that it's time to disrupt the dialogue. It seems like we all agree. And I want to thank you from TECHNATION's perspective, because we believe that with all of the momentum we can create with all of you, that this is the year to do that. Like I was saying earlier, our team, we were serious when we said we're going to develop a call to action around this. There's a team behind the scenes taking notes as we speak. We'll be following up and drafting some of the solutions, strategies, ideas that came about. And we do have that re-energized board on diversity that Lisa Carroll is going to be kicking off as well. So I look forward to this discussion, but driving it to the commitments and change that we're looking for. Thank you, Melissa. You've been a great partner in crime. And Angela, Marianne, Kareem, Susan, Jamie, thank you so much. It's been great.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.